We can talk about Martha.
We can talk about everything. I love it.
Martha's cool.
Martha is cool. We have Chef Morimoto that has a restaurant here. We have Gordon Ramsay that has a restaurant here, and now Martha's.
Yeah, I know we are live, but like, you have like one of the coolest properties in the United States.
I think we do.
It is pretty cool.
It is. It's 9 million square feet of cool. So
9 million. Oh my God.
It's literally a labyrinth of just awesomeness. Everywhere you go, there's so much to see. There's happening. It is a cool place. It is a cool property.
And you get a lot of steps in. So, it's a healthy place. It's healthy.
It's like Disneyland for adults.
Yes.
Well, let's jump in. Our next episode of Beyond the Binder, we are joined by Michelle Shriver. Michelle is the Senior Vice President of Hospitality at Foxwoods Resort Casino. As we mentioned, one of the largest resort casino complexes in North America, but her story goes far beyond that. With nearly 30 years in hospitality and gaming, Michelle spent 18 years as Executive Vice President at Ameristar, helping grow the company from a few small properties to regional powerhouse with over $1.2 billion in revenue. But what we find most compelling about Michelle, and this is why Adam's like, we got to get her on, is she balances the tension we talk about constantly, top-line growth and operational rigor. She lived it at scale across multiple properties and through every kind of market condition. Thank you for joining us, Michelle.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
This is
and with that,
I've been waiting for today. I've been waiting for this one for a long time. I'm like, God, I cannot wait till we can get Michelle and a piece of your schedule and the time. But this is it's really exciting.
It is always fun when I get to spend some time with you, Adam. So I love your energy. I love what you bring every time you show up. So you have to come back and visit real soon.
Oh, yes. 100%.
Talking me into it. Okay, Adam, I got a new hook.
All right.
Let's get consistent with Beyond the Binder.
Wow. I'm loving it. It's like Darkwing Duck. Let's get dangerous, but instead, let's get consistent.
We can go with let's get dangerous.
I love
it. All right. Pardon me. Okay. So, Michelle, you've written about making decisions that hurt before they help. I mean, where do you see leaders stepping in to carry weight that a system should be handling instead?
Great question. I think leaders step in not necessarily because they want control, but because something's not working. They see something that isn't working, and so they step in to coach, to train, or just to do the work. Is actually where I see the problem come in. And I think of a general manager who has to spend his time or her time. I was a GM, so her time that reviewing the banquet space before every meeting, right? Or you have a VP who is they're the get it done person, and you can go to them with anything, and it's going to be handled. But the problem is they're the one handling it, as opposed to really where the system should come in is, through that training, through the reinforcement, through the one-on-ones, through management by walking around, through, the coaching opportunities. Obviously, all of those things are important. And then, of course, the follow-up, beyond that. And so I think when you see situations that continue to repeat, that the leader keeps jumping in, then you have a system failure. And frankly, I hate to say it, but a leadership failure, because when they are no longer leading, but they are operating, that's not really what you need them for and what you hired them for and where you need them to take the team. So, it reminds me of when you come on shift and you think, well, today's going to be a good day because so-and-so is on shift. No, it should always be a good day. It should never be, dependent upon who's on shift. It should be that it's because, things are working and the systems are there to ensure that they do.
Totally. I mean, I really like that because it's also, I think, articulating the fact that in hospitality so often, and I'm so guilty of this, or at least I was, in my operation of saying, look, when we feel like we have to be the hero, when we feel like if I'm not there physically, if I'm not there to hold the reins together, what that's really telling us is, hang on, something's not right. Like there is a system failure here and a philosophy failure here. There is a breakdown in leadership. Now, that I don't want to get that confused with the idea of being on the floor, of being a present leader and making sure that you're there. There is a difference between I am here physically, I'm supporting the operation, I'm, playing, technical support here. But if you're the one that's actually single-handedly holding it together, this is where stuff I really think that breaks apart. And I think that sometimes leaders have a hard time distinguishing that fact of between you need to be there. And because, I trust my team does not mean that you can just be absent and not engaged or, not there. Where at the same time that if you are constantly in the deep throes, hang on, pause, something's broken, something needs to be corrected here. And I think that especially early leaders get those two mixed up.
Absolutely. I mean, early in my career, it was easier to do it myself. It was going to get done right. It was going to get done the way I wanted it to.
Yeah.
And frankly, sometimes I still find myself doing that, even with like an assistant, right? Where I'm just going to do it because by the time I explain it to you when I want done, it's
it could be done.
It could be done. And then the problem is you have to do it again and you have to do it again. And you're not giving that person an opportunity to succeed and to be valued in the role that they're in. So,
yes. And you lose out on the ability for them to like bring their perspective in as well. Like not only are you missing out on like, okay, yeah, your job, the time that it takes for me to physically do it, but hang on, when somebody else looks at that task from another perspective or can tie it into things that may not even be in your peripherals or in your direct line of sight, because they have that sight or they have that connection and says, some of my favorite stuff is when leaders, they're delegating or they're broadening their reach as far as delegating tasks and things like that. And then there's somebody that says, hang on, I'm doing the same, I'm doing this, and I can be the connection here rather than, having to play telephone or having to do so many things. But when we actually give that work out and we allow our teams to really take ownership of things and let the system build, what we're really doing is really creating a well-oiled machine, right? It's this idea that in software, my co-founder Phil always says, slow is smooth, but smooth is fast. And sometimes we have to slow down to say, hey, look, let me teach you this thing. Let me show you how it needs to be done. And when we do that and we streamline our communications, our systems, it ends up moving faster. We become a better organization for it. Rarely have we ever said, gosh, I'm super glad we didn't collaborate on that and I just did it. Sometimes, okay, it comes out, but most of the time that's not true.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I think you've both answered this, but I don't want the audience to miss this point. So let me ask just straightforward. At what point does leadership stop being leadership and start becoming compensation for operational inconsistency?
Yeah, I think it shifts the moment leadership becomes reactive and not directional. And so, a leader should be setting the direction. They should be building capability. When they have to jump in and actually do the work, then, something's off, right? There's there's not the consistency that they're trying to build. And I think that when the organization starts to trust like your department, you as the leader, but they're trusting you as opposed to what you've built. I mean, wow, that's a problem, right? Because what happens when you leave? What happens when you retire? What happens when you go on and do a different thing than where, than where we left? So
Amen to that. Oh, geez, hands in the air, because this is, there's something that I've always said, and every time I've ever done any type of leadership development or I've ever worked with anyone, I always say, look, people, when you leave a role or a job or a place, they shouldn't miss you because, oh my gosh, who's going to do this? Or, oh my gosh, Michelle's the only one that knew the passwords, or, Adam's the only one that knew how to do this. And now we miss him because of that. But they should miss us because, man, they were awesome and fun in their leadership, because we built our team around us to be successful. It's the greatest measurement, I think, of a leader is one that can be gone or can move on to the next stage of their career or their journey or whatever it is, and the team be just as functional and the team be just as successful. And even more so that they'll continue to be more successful because you're going to get somebody else to come in and improve on those things because you've gotten, those briars cleared out, right? You're able to plant better crops, so to speak. And so I think also with that, when we look at this leader, like a good telling point for me has always been, if you're not acting on and utilizing any type of data, if you're not looking at things and actually, strategizing and really trying to make thought through decisions, that's a good telltale of like, hang on, you're just a reactionary leader at the moment. You're not really digging into core causes, or you're missing, key elements, or not really understanding and identifying trends within your operation. Right. And one of the things that I like to talk to and remind current leaders is, when we're talking about compliance scores or measurements, anything like that, there's always this hang up of like, oh my gosh, well, what if my department's doing bad? What if we have low scores? What if we do poorly on an assessment? Well, okay, fine. The mark of a good leader isn't that you got these top marks. I think the mark of a leader is, okay, I got a bad mark here, but in 6 months later, we got it to here. Look at our growth. Look at how we led this team to improve these metrics. It's not, how can I pad this and make it look good like I'm doing now? No.
Right.
Let's show what we're doing, how we're doing it, and let's get there. And the leaders that are constantly trying to prove themselves today and not show growth and improvement and all of this, that's when it costs you. That's I think that type of leadership is where it really starts hitting of, this is what's costing you, because you're not actually able to improve. There's no
right. I mean, you're going to stay stagnant. You're not going to have that ability to grow. And so, and I mean, me, I love metrics. I love data. I love what it tells us, and it's what you do with it that makes all the difference.
Yeah.
Right? And so I actually just talked about that, I think, on LinkedIn. I think I just posted about team member engagement surveys. I've been working on a follow-up to that, but I haven't posted it yet.
Oh, great. Can't wait for it.
What if you have a strong culture, but you're still seeing inconsistency?
Well, I have been incredibly blessed to work for companies with a very strong culture. The company that I started my career with, and I was with, 18 years, had a very strong culture. People really cared. People understood what we were trying to do. And I now also work for a company where that culture is immense. This is a tribal property where people really care about the future of, what we're building and how it takes care of the tribe. And then thus that translates into how it takes care of the guest, right? But that doesn't mean you can have a strong culture that drives how people want to show up. But if you don't have the systems to ensure that they can show up that way and that they know what that looks like and they're being trained on it and held accountable to it and audited for it and, and coached along the way to continue to understand what that culture looks like in action, then, that you can still have a strong culture, but you're not going to have, the guest isn't going to feel it because it's not going to be consistent, on a day in and day out basis. So when it shows up differently, to the guest is when you have a problem, not necessarily a culture problem, but a systems problem.
And I like to think that culture is a really unique thing. Obviously thousands of books and topics and TED Talks and all of the things that we can. And even, at Yippee, we talk often about culture and we're talking about it a lot now, but I always think about culture as a garden. And look, we can till the soil, we can plant the right seeds. If I want carrots, I need to plant carrots, right? I can't plant carrots and expect beets. But I've got to plant the right things as leadership, and I have to make sure that I'm doing everything I can and I'm watering it. But ultimately, in the end, it's the carrot that grows, right? It's the seed itself that grows and becomes that. And I think, what I love about cultural analogy with, gardening in some aspect is if you understand the seed, if we understand what we're trying to grow, we know how to care for it. Like I might, funny enough, this weekend, my wife bought some plants and we had this great little plant festival. And it was so great because the person we're buying from, okay, this plant does well in this type of sun and this type of soil, and this is what it needs. And, as we think about, okay, what is it that we're growing here? We understand, okay, the culture that I want, what is it that I'm going to do? How am I going to nourish this? How am I going to make sure that this culture and this plant can grow and thrive? And when we look at our systems and the things that we're doing, is do we have practices in place that are building that culture on two ends? And especially in hospitality, we have to build it not only in a business sense of like running an operation that's smooth and efficient and all of these other things, but we also have these things, these guests that we also have to align that with and be like, okay, now it's great that we're all doing this. Do the guests even like it, right? Are they even happy? And is this the right approach? Is it the right thing? Does it represent who we are? And I think as we think through building that culture, we have to have systems that help us analyze that of, are we doing it right? Are we being productive? Are we being efficient? And are we leading to guest satisfaction? And are we building competent and confident team members? And if we're missing those things, man, we got to go back to the drawing board.
Right. Well, and you have to define it, so we can, when you were just talking about, culture, you have to define it, what makes a carrot, what makes it grow, like you said, what is the sunshine? I mean, all of those things have to be defined. The standards have to be defined, how we show up, what we look like, what we sound like, what we say, what we don't say, not as robotic, but as this is how, it sounds like, this is what it looks like. And then this is how it makes the other person feel, right? How does that translate into how the guest feels about what we're doing? And then we have to measure it and understand where it's not working and dissect where it's not working and go back and fix it again. I mean, that's what a leader does day after day after day.
and the great thing about our industry is it's constantly changing.
Yes.
It's constantly being reinvented, right? Like what was good 10 years ago that yielded great results might not be what is needed or wanted or appreciated now, right?
I agree completely, because when you think about, the human touch and how important that was, not that it's not important, because it absolutely is, but so many people now, I want to get in quickly. I want to get in efficiently. If I don't actually have to stand in line at the front desk, I can just go to a kiosk and print my room key and I get right up to my room and I'm happy. And you didn't interact with anyone, but you are in a better state of mind than had you stood in line for a few minutes to talk to someone who then asked you a lot of questions and,
yes.
And other people want to be able to stand in line. They want to have that interaction. And that's where we get to, anticipate their needs and understand, you look at their driver's license and you see, either where they live or what their birthday is. And now you can have that special interaction. But both guests are happy at the end of either no interaction or the interaction, right? You're meeting their needs.
And on that point, as we look at the evolution of the guest experience that's happening now, right? Especially with automation coming in and all of these things, it is true. The guests are like, well, look, I just want to get straight to my room. I mean, gosh, I love that you can have your guest room key card on your phone now.
On your phone. Yeah.
It is wild. Like, heck
Someday
yes. Right? Like, let's get there. And you can get to it, but then okay, but wait a minute, we want a culture of friendly employees. How do I get my how do I get my guests to feel like we have friendly employees or, colleagues or associates, whatever we call ourselves, if we're not interacting? Well, what that means is that when we do interact, the table stakes are so much higher, right?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get friendly Adam at check-in, who was so nice and polite to me. So now when I get to my guest room, I might be more forgiving because, gosh, they're just so nice down there. Everyone's so helpful. No, I didn't interact with anybody. I'm just coming in, and now I'm perceiving everything off of, zero interaction. Now I'm looking at the room with a different set of eyes. Okay, now I go down to the bar, I go down to the restaurant, or I go down to the tables, and now I have my first interaction. I may have been at the property for 15, 20 minutes already, or maybe an hour. But my first interaction, and maybe I'm only going to have 2 or 3 points of human contact, where before I would have had, 20, 30, who knows? Mm-hmm. And so we have to be so much more purposeful and more consistent in those deliveries because they become more valuable, especially as things are changing. And again, it just comes down to, I think that consistency definitely does not mean robotics. I think consistency means, when we look at this, it really means understanding what the delivery is, what the objective is, and working hard that every interaction is focused on that delivery, on making sure, okay, how do I get you from A to B? And some guests, we got to go, like this, and others we're able to go like this. And so I think consistency isn't, and I'm taking a long time to say this, which is, you nailed it so right on the head, Michelle, I think, of when you're saying the step is define it. And if you don't have it defined, you're just chasing something you can never catch because you haven't defined it well enough, and you'll just be chasing it. But once it's defined, now you can refine it, right? Now you can come back through and, like you were saying, analyze and audit it and inspect it and say, okay, are we doing it? Now we can use, guest satisfaction measures. We can use auditing tools. We can use all these different things, and it will help us get better because we have an idea of success and we're able to help our team members get there.
Yeah.
Let's go on a little side street of culture and auditing. Like, we've heard this at Yippee. Well, we don't have a culture of auditing. So Michelle, you had mentioned it earlier. You really like data. Well, if you're not auditing, then you don't have data, and you certainly don't have real-time data. And talk to me a little bit about why that can be a trap. I understand what Adam is saying. You don't want robotics, but you want to measure what's going on, right?
Right. I mean, absolutely. I think that the systems that you can't, what I'm trying to think of what that saying is, where you inspect what you expect. And if you don't know, if you're not inspecting, you're not going to know what's happening. If you're not inspecting, you don't know what's not working. If you're not looking at the data, you don't know. And if you don't even have data, oh my goodness, right? And we haven't always had, we haven't always had data. We've had standards, and we had standards that sit on a shelf for years, right? And then we have to revisit them and say, are these still accurate? Are these still what the guest is looking for? To your point, Adam, I mean, it's changing constantly. And so what's important to, the guests today, and you won't know that unless you ask them, and you ask them what their pain points are, and you find those out, and then you try to solve those, right? And so then you recreate, the standards. The standards are a living, breathing document. They shouldn't change all the time, obviously, but but they should measure, or they should address what you're measuring. And so I think that, and then auditing them just has to be part of the culture. I mean, it should never be. I feel like we failed if we bring a team member into your office and they're worried about, oh, what did I do wrong? If that is their first thought, if you're calling them into your office, is what did I do wrong? Then you are not meeting with them often enough. You're not coaching them. You're not having those regular conversations to say, how are you doing? How's it going? What can I do differently better as a leader? Here's the things that I see that you need to be working on. It's that ongoing interaction. It should be just as common for you to, bring someone into your office to say, you did an amazing job at that. Great job. I'm actually going to document it. I'm not going to document, just the things that are wrong. I'm going to document the things that have gone right and put that in your file. And I think that's how you build culture. That's how you build systems and standards, is by, those ongoing, conversations that you are, then auditing and following up on.
Oh, a hot take here. Here's my hot take is anybody that feels that they're in the hospitality industry and they don't have a quote auditing culture, or we don't have that, you're dead wrong. Like, you are auditing at all times. Like, whether or not you're doing something with that audit, whether or not you're capturing that data. Now that's one thing or another. But in our industry, everything we do is being inspected by our guests, by our team members. Every single thing is being inspected. And so really what it comes down to is, as a leader, do you want a part of that, or do you not want to be a part of that? Like, do you want to capitalize on capturing that, or do you not want to capitalize on it? The guests are experiencing the survey. They're staying in the room. So you might want to go look at that every once in a while, right? Or maybe you are, right? And I think to your point, Michelle, really well put, is like, it's not, auditing isn't this formal, like, let me walk by and, okay, check mark and get my clipboard out and do everything always, right? It's being present. It's acknowledging and seeing and capturing and recording. Oh yeah, this was done great. Let's capture that. And then measure it. Okay, it's done great. Was it felt great? Did it feel great to our people and to our guests and everything? And so as we start to now say, look, you have two options. You can actually write it down, or you can just observe it. But either way, auditing is happening around you, and we have to capture that data. We have to capture that information that we're having with us, because if we don't, what ends up happening is it's negative space now, right? Now it's the absence. And without that feedback, without me stopping by and saying, hey, Michelle, I think you did a great job here, or without me stopping, being like, oh, we missed a thing, what we're doing is we're promoting it, right? What we permit, we promote also. And so there's this, like, inspect what you expect, but also realize what you permit, you promote. So what is it that I'm doing here? If I'm not on the floor, if I'm not listening, and if I'm not giving that feedback, whatever that term may be, positive, negative, constructive, whatever, what we're doing is we're missing these opportunities to help reinforce a really healthy culture. And so we have to remember it's happening with your participation or not. One's just helping you and one's hurting you.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah. How do you know when a problem is a people issue versus a systems issue? Leaders keep trying to solve with people.
Well, I think it's when, I look at, is this a consistent problem across multiple people? It's not just one person. This is a consistent problem that my top performers, fall into the trap or make a mistake in this area, and my brand new people also are having a challenge. If that's the case, it's absolutely a system problem. It's we haven't set something up correctly. We haven't trained something. We haven't reinforced what we're looking for. If, I think that's always going to be the tell is, is this one person, or, or even, is it one shift? Then that might be a people problem. That might be the leadership problem on that particular shift. It's not every team member on that shift. It's that this is what they've set up for that shift. But if it's across multiple shifts, multiple leaders, multiple people, then there's something behind the scenes that you have to address in terms of systems.
Yes, we've got to get there. Oh, like this is see, Jason, this is why we need Michelle. This is why we needed her. Exactly this. And it just so well put. And I want to add one more little thing on here if I can, which is also, I think that there's an interesting thing that happens, especially in data. And I know we're coming up on time here, but I want to get this point out that oftentimes we create strategies or plans, or okay, we want to do it this way, right? And we deliver it. And there's two things that happen, and I think that are two sides of the same coin. And one side is guest satisfaction. Did we deliver something that was enjoyable, that the guest walks away saying, heck yeah, I love that. Let's go back. Let's do it again, right? I want to come back for more. And then on the second side is, did we do it right? Right? Like, are we doing it in a way that's sustainable? Is this a consistent thing? Can we do this? And the best practices in the world are when those two sides of that coin exist, and guests are happy and we're doing it consistently and correctly. I think what ends up happening oftentimes is sometimes we hear guest isn't happy. And so we immediately go back and we start, okay, well, they checked in with Jason, or they checked in with Michelle. They're clearly doing something wrong, right? But if we don't have the system in place where we have the defined expectations and defined, all those things, we might never learn that actually Michelle's doing exactly what she was supposed to be doing. She's delivering it the exact way that we've asked her to deliver it. The guests just don't like it. They're just not happy with the end result. And so we got to come back and say, oh man, maybe it is a system thing. Like maybe it's our process. Like let's change that. What's going on? And so, to the point, is this thing being experienced by more than just one person? Is there data that supports that? But what we've got to do is line those two up, right? Is the guest happy, and did we do it right? Okay, great. The guest is thrilled. Wow, let's go praise Jason, through the roof. But guess what? He's not doing anything right. Like he's not doing any of it in a way that's sustainable or repeatable. Like he's just giving everyone comps. Like, oh my gosh, yeah, free dinner on us, right? He's gonna love it. But it's not a sustainable business practice, and it's not fair to the rest of the team, right? And so we have to look at what is the system. Like, is it playing and being fair? And so when we look at this, we have to have eyes bigger than our own, right? We have to be able to look out and look and say, okay, can I see my team for what it is? Can I see the results? Can I see the data? Can I see the everything that's in play here to really make sure that we're making the right decisions?
Let's wrap up with this one. What would you consider as the long-term cost of an organization relying on strong leaders to hold things together instead of, an underlying system that we've talked about?
Well, when you're dependent on the leader, when you're dependent upon people, kind of without systems, it's not scalable. You cannot grow from a place of this dependency on, that, the leader is the one that's doing all the work and they're the one always stepping in, like we talked about before, or, I'm hiring really friendly, wonderful, smart, driven people, and they're just going to naturally do the right thing because that's who they are at their core, right? You cannot scale, you cannot grow, you cannot get to the benchmarks that you're striving, unless you have the underlying systems in place. That's just the reality of it.
Let me interrupt.
Yeah.
9 million square feet. You have to be growing people up into different parts of the organization
100%.
to maintain. How do you maintain 9 million square feet?
Well,
You're not pulling people off the street. You got to grow them up, right?
Absolutely. I mean, we don't live, our property is not in a major metropolitan area either, right? I mean, people have to, we're pulling people from the local community. I mean, sometimes we bring people in, from the outside, but the average tenure here is well over 10 years. I mean, the people come and they stay and they want to grow. And if we're doing our job right, we are developing, we're growing, we're coaching, we're helping people. We understand, we have programs around this too, right? Development programs where is it that you want to go, even if it's not in my department or in my division, and how do I help you get there? Because we do, with this amount of footprint, you have to have people that you're growing from within. And sometimes, but it's also great to bring people in from the outside with a different perspective that might make you think a little differently than just people that have grown up here. So there's a nice, healthy balance of both. I don't know that you can do it well without both sides, but you absolutely have to grow your people.
I mean,
you have to be out there. I mean, you have to get your steps in. You have to be out there so that people feel comfortable walking up to you and letting you know how they feel, what's going on, what they're seeing, and with the guests as well, right? I mean, the guests have to feel comfortable coming up to you. I can tell you that our CEO is out on the floor and people approach him all the time and say, "Did you know this? I saw this." And he will solve it. He will thank them for their feedback, and he will solve it. And that starts at the very top, and flows down, through the rest of the organization.
I mean, there is one truth that no one can argue with. You definitely have a lead from the front culture there at Foxwoods. I mean, it is a lead from the front culture, which is really great that you are out there, you're on the floor, it's wonderful. And when you think about, you could start to paint this really, Snow White picture of, nestled in the beautiful forests in Connecticut lies this 9 million square foot, like, oh my gosh, like this huge thing. This isn't Vegas we're talking about, right? We're talking about a destination that truly can only thrive as a testament to the way that people are treated, to the way that the guest experiences. You don't get this type of expansion. You don't get Martha Stewart, Gordon Ramsay to put their name, with you without being excellent. And as you look at that growth, it really is, it cannot be because you have one good leader. It's because you have an amazing garden. The soil is rich, and you're growing amazing people, right? And you're really helping it grow, and you're creating incredible experiences. And it's the best, because without that, you lose all of that. And so I think, Jason, to answer your question directly, what's the cost? Well, you don't get to become, Foxwoods. You don't get to become this amazing operation without that type of focus.
No Martha, no Gordon.
You're out.
Well, Michelle, we want to thank you for your time. We know you're super busy, but this has been great.
Well, thank you. This has been an absolute pleasure. Anytime I can talk about our industry, our business, Foxwoods in particular, I mean, it's a good day. So thank you for allowing me to do that.
It is wonderful. And before we go, Michelle, how can, I know you've got a great subscription there on Substack, and I actually really enjoy the content that you put out. How can, if anyone's listening and they want to keep following you and they've enjoyed the things that you've said, how can they follow you or find you?
I'm on LinkedIn, Michelle Shriver. I assume there's probably more than me, but hopefully you'll find me, Michelle Shriver on LinkedIn. I spend a lot of time there. I do have a Substack also under Michelle Shriver. So Great. You can find me. You can find me there. I don't spend as much time on social anymore, but other types of social, I guess. But because I love to write, I love to, again, talk about the industry, talk about leadership, talk about, all of those things that, I don't know, I care about. So
I tell you what, I don't get to digest a ton of content as much as I would like to. but I've never missed a post from Michelle.
Oh.
Not one. Not on any of the, especially on your Substack. So I encourage everyone to follow it. It's really, and subscribe. It's really incredible.
Yeah, you can subscribe and you'll get it right in your inbox.
It comes right to you. You don't even have to do the work. You don't have to look for it. All right. Thanks again. Sorry we went over, everyone, but thanks for joining us today, Michelle.
Great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.